3 Haunting True Nightmares That Haunt You Forever. Mandatory Volume 2. Night Whispered Secrets Above the Small Town of Cedar Hollow. 3 true stories echoed through the streets like an omen, sending chills straight down spines. People could feel it, a suffocating pressure in the air, a creeping shadow that swallowed laughter whole. They said once you heard them, you couldn't forget. The first tale was about a girl named Clara, whose laughter was as bright as the sun. One night, she vanished, leaving only the echoes of her giggles and the smell of her favorite flowers, lilacs, lingering in the air. Days turned into decades, yet her absence remained a ghost in the hearts of those who loved her. Every spring, as the lilacs bloomed, whispers floated about a girl dancing under the moonlight, waiting to be found. Could her spirit still roam, searching for someone to bring her back? Then there was the old church on the edge of town. Its steeple jutted into the sky like a skeletal finger. They said on stormy nights, if you stood close enough, you could hear the wailing of lost souls trapped inside. People claimed to glimpse flickering shadows through the cracked stained glass. It was as if the sanctuary cradled all those who come and never left. What stories did those walls hold? What pain had seeped into the very foundation? An unsettling chill prickled at the back of the neck just thinking about it. And finally, the woods. Dense and dark, they could swallow a person whole. Mothers warned their kids, don't go wandering. The rustling leaves seemed to giggle, and the branches reached out like bony fingers. Legends told of a figure, cloaked in shadow, that lured the curious into the depths. Many had ventured in, few returned unscathed. What secrets lay hidden among those trees? Could the very land itself be alive, harboring ancient forces that breathed and watched? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As night fell over Cedar Hollow, the air thickened with unease. Would Clara's spirit return? What truly wailed in the church? And who or what lurked in the woods? Curiosity gnawed at the edges of every soul in town. They could hear the calling, but would they dare to answer? The following night felt electric. An unexplainable tension crackled in the air, making the hair on the back of necks stand on end. Houses once buzzing with life, now shuddered in the stillness. Lights flickered like anxious fireflies trapped in glass. Folks gathered at the diner, whispering over cups of coffee, an eerie mix of fear and fascination swirling like smoke in the dim light. Clara, the church, the woods. Each name was a secret the town dared not forget. Samantha, an amateur sleuth, felt a pull stronger than her coffee's caffeine. She was determined to uncover the truth behind Clara's disappearance. She sat at the corner booth, scribbling into her frayed notebook. Her fingers trembled, not from cold but from a growing sense of urgency. Clara had been her best friend. How could she simply vanish? I heard they found something, her friend Jake said quietly, leaning close. His eyes darted around as if the shadows would steal his words. In the woods by the old oak. Samantha's heart skipped. What did they find? Just some kids. They thought they saw Clara? Or at least someone who looked like her. But they ran screaming, man. Screaming. A chill danced along Samantha's spine. What would make those kids run? Were they merely frightened? Or was something darker lurking within those trees? When she finished her coffee, she walked out into the night, the full moon illuminating the path ahead. The woods loomed in the distance, their silhouette a jagged break in the smooth sky. She couldn't shake the instincts, or the whispers that called her name as she stood at the tree line. The wind whispered among the branches, beckoning her closer. What are you trying to hide? She murmured. She saw the gnarled roots arching like claws above the dirt, and the shadows danced unnaturally at the corners of her vision. With each step deeper into the woods, the air thickened around her, wrapping her in a cloak of unease. Every rustle, every snap of a twig made her heart pound louder. Suddenly, silence enveloped her, a blanket of dread. Then, the cry broke through the stillness, a scream so piercing that it sliced through her resolve. It was human, high-pitched and terrified. Her blood ran cold as she turned on her heel, running toward the sound. Branches whipped against her face. Leaves crunched violently underfoot. Her breath came ragged and desperate. "Help! Somebody, please!" It was a voice she recognized, but her mind couldn't comprehend. Clara? No, it couldn't be. Instead of slowing, Samantha pushed forward, adrenaline propelling her through the darkness. She stumbled upon a clearing, where the moonlight pooled like silver water. And there, in the center, lay a girl, her hair a dark halo against the pale ground. "Clara?" Samantha gasped, approaching cautiously. But as she drew near, her heart sank. It wasn't her friend. The girl's face was twisted in terror, eyes wide with an unfathomable horror. Without a word, the girl pointed a trembling finger over Samantha's shoulder. Samantha spun around, her breath catching in her throat. The tall figure stood shrouded in shadow, its gaze cold and piercing. Instinct screamed for her to run, but she stood frozen, a deer caught in headlights. A murmuring filled the air, soft at first but quickly building into a cacophony of voices, intertwining like threads in a web of madness. They spoke Clara's name, the woods alive with a sound that pierced the veil of sanity. What had she stumbled into? With dread settling in her gut, Samantha knew one thing. Whatever darkness clung to Cedar Hollow was only just awakening, and she was right in the thick of it. What would she find next? Was she ready to face whatever horrors the woods intended to unveil? The figure loomed, tall and distinct against the night sky. Shadows flickered around it, and its breath seemed to merge with the murmurs of the woods. Panic coursed through Samantha as the voices escalated, rising like a storm threatening to unearth unspeakable truths. "Run!" she finally screamed, breaking the paralysis holding her captive. She dashed back toward the entrance of the clearing, adrenaline surging. But some cold force pulled her back. She stumbled, caught in a web of branches that snagged at her clothes and skin, tearing like the grasp of the unseen. The girl on the ground, still frozen in place, watched with eyes full of terror, pleading silently for help. "Help me!" Samantha shouted, desperate. But the woods swallowed her voice, twisting it into the night, muffling all hope. And then the figure moved. It stepped toward her, its elongated limbs uncoiling, its true shape almost too difficult to discern in the shadows. Hints of a face shifted into view, but it was nothing she recognized. It wore a smile that chilled Samantha to the bone, wide and unyielding, revealing teeth that glinted like sharp stones. She jerked again against the roots binding her, fear consuming her thoughts. "Clara, where are you?" The name slipped from her lips, a mantra to anchor her in the chaos. But the woods only whispered back, their secrets buried beneath layers of darkness. With one powerful tug, Samantha freed herself. She ran, the underbrush snapping fiercely beneath her feet. But no matter how fast she moved, she could feel the presence trailing behind her. The murmurs morphed into her name, echoing through the branches, twisting around her like smoke. "Stop!" A voice broke through, deeper and commanding. It didn't belong to the figure tailing her, but to a newcomer, someone who stood at the very edge of the darkened woods. Stumbling to a halt, Samantha turned, her heart hammering in her chest. There was a stranger, a man whose face was obscured by the midnight shadows, but his tone was familiar. "Get away from here, now!" His urgent call resonated with a strange authority, cutting through the panic swirling inside her. Felt almost like a lifeline. She darted towards him, fueled by sheer desperation. The figure paused, its eerie smile somehow unsettlingly fixed, a reflection of something appallingly wrong in the woods. "What's going on?" she gasped, her words tumbling over one another. "Is it Clara? What happened?" The man stepped closer, his silhouette sharp against the moonlight. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low and serious. "None of us should." This is not our place. It doesn't belong to us. Samantha's head spun. What do you mean? What doesn't belong? Suddenly, the air went cold. A gust of wind blew through the trees, rattling the branches. The murmurs grew louder, swirling around them, thick with despair. Just as she opened her mouth to ask more, a bone-chilling laugh echoed from deep within the forest, sending shivers racing down her spine. The man's expression shifted, panic flashing across his features. We need to go. Now. He grabbed her wrist, pulling her away from the dark, menacing figure behind them as they sprinted through the woods. The shadows seemed to reach out, grasping for them. The dissonant laugh followed, bouncing between the trees. Samantha could feel something closing in around them, as if the forest desired to reclaim them both. Then, just as suddenly as it started, they stumbled into the light the edge of the woods where the trees parted. He pulled her through, but as they emerged into the clearing, silence fell once more. Stillness enveloped them like a shroud. What was that? She panted, looking back at the trees, unsure of what she'd left behind. Something you're better off forgetting, the man replied, his voice grim, tinged with fear. But I fear it may not let you go that easily. With the realization dawning on her, she felt the weight of the woods and its secrets pressing down. Shadows lingered on the periphery of her mind, whispering of things yet unveiled, and deep within her, she knew the search for Clara was far from over. It was only just beginning. What awaited them in the shadows of Cedar Hollow? The moon hung low in the sky, a dim guardian above. Samantha's breath came in ragged gasps as she stared at the man beside her. He was breathing heavily, his eyes darting toward the tree-line, where darkness seemed thicker and more menacing. Who are you? She asked, her voice trembling. Just someone who knows better, he said, glancing over his shoulder. My name is Daniel. We need to keep moving. The suggestion of more danger, unseen and lurking, spiked her anxiety. But Clara, she is still out there. We can't leave her. Listen. Daniel's voice boomed, cutting through the night. You think you're the only one who cares? There's nothing we can do for her now. Not until we're safe. Confusion twisted in her stomach. What did he mean by that? A low growl floated from the woods, and Samantha instinctively took a step backward, closer to Daniel. There's something in there. She pointed at the dense underbrush. Is hunting us. Exactly, he said, backing away from the trees. That's why we need to run. Every second we waste out here puts us at risk. Samantha's heart raced. She wanted to scream, to cry for Clara, to demand answers, but the primal instinct to survive drowned out her words. So she nodded, and together they sprinted away from the edge of destruction. The world that had always felt safe now twisted and foreign. The ground sloped down sharply, and they descended into a narrow gully. Samantha stumbled over roots and loose stones, panic boiling in her chest. Her eyes flickered to Daniel, whose focus was unwavering, intent on a destination unseen. What are we looking for? She managed to bark out between breaths. Shelter, he replied tersely. Somewhere to regroup. We can't let it catch us in the open. What is it? Her voice caught as she threw a glance over her shoulder. The dark forest seemed to breathe, the shadows pulsing like a living organism. It's not just one thing, he said, his voice low. It's a manifestation of the woods, a parasite that feeds on fear. Out here, it feels every ounce of terror you harbor. It thrives on it. The words twisted her stomach. But Clara, she is scared. If we don't find her, Daniel grabbed her arm, halting her frantic pace. She is like you. If we don't keep moving, we will become its prey too. They plunged deeper into the thicket, and the shadows clawed at Samantha's mind, curling around her thoughts and wrapping tightly around her fear. Her heart raced even faster, threatening to burst. Just when she thought they would be swallowed by the darkness, they stumbled into a clearing. A twisted, old cabin sat in front of them, its windows dark and broken. This should do, Daniel said, urgency coloring his voice. What if it gets in? Then we fight, he said, his determination a fierce glow amid the encroaching dread. They rushed to the door, Daniel kicking it open with a loud crash. Inside, It was still and unsettling. The air felt heavy, charged with electricity. As they moved further in, the silence screamed, echoing the very questions they needed answers to. "Do you think she's okay?" Samantha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Clara, do you think she's scared?" "There's no way to know, but you have to focus." "If you give in," he trailed off, leaving the threat lingering like an ominous shadow. Suddenly, a noise crackled outside, a clash of branches, followed by something heavy thumping against the ground. Samantha's gut tightened. Whatever was chasing them was closer than she thought. "Get behind me," Daniel whispered, positioning himself at the window. The shadows outside shifted, and then she saw a glimpse of that same smile, that grin piercing the darkness. They weren't safe yet. Heart pounding, Samantha felt the weight of the cabin loosening her fear, and the urge to confront whatever was outside surged within her. But what if doing so only invited more danger? She took a step toward Daniel. What should she do next? In that moment of uncertainty, the shadow paused at the edge of the clearing, its unsettling smile wide and expectant. And then it whispered her name. Clara, the soft, haunting echo sent. Shivers racing down her spine. Whatever they had escaped was still hunting them. Would it be Clara's voice calling them home, or something far worse? The night had just begun. Samantha jumped, the whisper shattering the fragile calm inside the cabin. Goosebumps erupted along her arms as she stared at Daniel, whose eyes were locked on the menacing darkness beyond. "What was that?" she gasped, anxiety threading through her words. Daniel's jaw tightened. "It's toying with us," he said, his voice strained. "Just trying to find the cracks in our resolve." "What do we do?" "Stay quiet. Stay ready." He slid down to a crouch, keeping his gaze fixed outside. The tension hummed in the air, heavy and electric. She edged toward the window, risking a look at the shadow, still waiting just outside the reach of moonlight. It appeared more solid now, its form shifting subtly within the darkness. Fear curdled in her stomach. "Clara." The shadow crooned again, and the name dripped with the poison of malice. The sound twisted her heart. Was it Clara? Or a cruel imitation, designed to lure her out? "Don't listen," Daniel snapped, his urgency yanking her back from the brink of madness. "It's not her. It won't ever be her." The shadows seemed to breathe, pulsating with a life of their own, drawing far closer than before. A soft scratching sound joined the whispers, a persistent like manic fingers dragging against the cabin's worn wood. "Is it getting in?" she breathed, her throat tight with fear. "Not yet," Daniel said, lowering his voice cautiously. "But we may not have long. We need to fortify this place." With trembling hands, Samantha searched the room for something to brace the door, anything to slow the encroaching presence. As she ducked behind a rotting table, she found an old chair, timbered legs splintered but sturdy enough to leverage against the door. "Here," she shouted, dragging it across the floor, heart racing as she caught glimpses of Daniel casting furtive glances toward the window. "Help me." As they worked quickly, the scratching morphed into loud thumps against the side of the cabin, reverberating through the walls like a drumbeat of dread. Samantha's breath came in panicked bursts. "We need to hurry," she urged. Daniel wedged the chair against the door just as a feral roar erupted from outside, a sound so raw and primal it struck fear straight into her bones. The cabin shuddered under the onslaught, and the walls seemed to sway. "Now," Daniel hissed. They backed away from the door, a brewing storm of icy dread filling the space. "What if it breaks through?" "Then we have to be ready to fight," he replied, his voice steadying. "Remember what I said about fear? We can't let it consume us." A crack of wood echoed, sending her heart into a frenzy. She wanted to scream but held it back, instinct screaming that any sound would only draw attention. Then suddenly silence. The pounding stopped. The whispering faded to a soft murmur as the shadow seemed to retreat momentarily. They both stood breathless, caught somewhere between hope and despair, awaiting the next wave of terror. "What now?" Samantha whispered, scanning the dark corners of the cabin. Daniel glanced at her, eyes hardening with determination. "Now we wait. We gather our strength and wait for it to slip again." And when it does, a sharp crack split the air, and all the frail hopes they had built shattered as the door splintered under an explosive force, crashing apart in a wash of debris. The shadow surged inside, writhing and twisting, its grotesque grin tearing across its surface. "Fight!" Daniel shouted, bringing a heavy broken plank down toward the dark mass. Just as it lunged toward Samantha, everything felt surreal. Time stretched, moments colliding into one another, racing toward chaos. But Samantha could see the demon shift, its laughter echoing with Clara's voice. In that instant, it clicked. The key to fighting it was knowing the truth. "Clara," she called, her voice soft but fierce. "I won't let you down." The darkness froze, unease flickering in its form. Daniel spun to her, confusion etched onto his face as he swung the makeshift weapon. "What are you doing?" Her heart pounded in unison with a dawning clarity. If it was feeding on their fear, then perhaps connection was the antidote. "Let me try," she yelled over the escalating chaos, stepping forward, hand outstretched. The smile faltered, and for a moment the woods held their breath, suspended between fear and understanding. Raw energy pulsed in the air, tension snapping like a bowstring, and in the depths of the shadow's gaze, a flicker of something familiar sparked. Would this be the moment of truth? Could she confront the being feeding off their fears? Just as she took another step forward, the world exploded with a visceral energy, a gust of wind swirling around them that felt alive, but at what cost? The true nature of their battle was about to reveal itself, leaving Samantha teetering on the edge of realization. Samantha felt the air thrum with energy, her heart racing in tune with the pulsing shadow. The beast froze, its laughter wavering, as if her voice had struck a chord within. For a moment, she believed they might bridge the gap between fear and understanding. "That's it," Daniel urged, his weapon hanging in the air. "Keep going." The darkness released a shudder, the grotesque features morphing into something almost recognizable, a visage clouded by grief and rage. "Clara," it echoed, the name carrying a weight that seemed to press down on them. Samantha took another brave step forward. "I know you're still in there," she shouted, voice strong despite the trembling of her limbs. Her outstretched hand trembled, yearning to bridge the distance, not out of fear, but desperation to rescue a lost soul. The shadow jerked, reeling as if struck. "They abandoned me." A growl erupted, thunderous and cracked, echoing off the cabin walls, sending splinters flying. "You will all abandon me. Clara, they didn't mean to. We all want you back." Samantha yelled, the words tumbling out, fueled by a desperate hope. She had to reach Clara. She had to remind the darkness of who it used to be. But the shadow writhed, tendrils curling like smoke around her, pulling at her torso. The cold seeped into her veins. Panic seized her. "Daniel!" she cried, but the roaring wind drowned her out as the creature howled in fury. In that moment, the wooden floors vibrated beneath them, and an otherworldly guttural sound resonated. The windows rattled violently, the forest outside silhouetted against the chaos. Daylight flared as if a storm burst through the very essence of their night. "Get back!" Daniel's shout erupted, snapping her from her daze. He plunged forward, swinging the plank wildly, scattering fragments of shadow like autumn leaves. "Don't let it take you." The shadow seemed to pause as if startled. And in that heartbeat, Samantha saw the flicker of Clara's eyes again, a glimmering memory behind the malevolence. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. A massive black hand lashed out, sending Daniel crashing into the wall. He collapsed, groaning, fear flashing in his eyes as he struggled to regain composure. "Daniel!" She turned, torn between two horrors, the beast in front of her and the man she couldn't afford to lose. Clenching her fists, she pushed forward again, desperate to act. "Clara, I know you're in there. Fight this. It's not Clara anymore." Daniel gasped, pulling himself upright with all his strength. "You can't save her." The shadows shrieked, twisting around Samantha, dark fingers clawing at her sanity. "Let her go. She is lost." "No!" Samantha screamed with all her might, unwavering in her belief. "She is not lost. Clara, I see you. A pause. The laughter faltered. The shadows hesitated, recoiling slightly. With every breath, Samantha felt her own fear surge. But buried beneath it was something bright, a desperate hope flickering like a candle fighting against a storm. Clara, come back to us. She took a fierce step forward, feeling the force of the shadow wrestle with her resolve. Fight it. Remember us. We need you. The air electric with tension. An ear-splitting roar erupted from the dark mass. It thrummed and buzzed, vibrating with anger and sorrow, shattering the fragile glass of the window with a single pulse. The space teetered on the brink of chaos, and Daniel's voice sliced through the din, shouting for Samantha to retreat. But she couldn't pull away. The challenge lay beyond a veil. She could feel it in her bones, the connection tethering her to Clara even if it had been twisted. Help! Clara's voice rang out, sharp and clear among the madness, sending Samantha's heart racing. She recognized the plea, tinged with desperation. Samantha grasped at the hope blooming inside her. Would she dare to truly reach for Clara now? An explosion ripped through the area, a blinding flash engulfed them, illuminating the night like midday sunlight, forcing them to shield their eyes, and as suddenly as it began, the light vanished, pulling the shadow into its depths. Darkness fell. Again, but something was different now. There was an unsettling calm in the air. What just happened? Daniel breathed out, shaking his head in disbelief. But Samantha wasn't ready. The echo of Clara's voice still hung in the air, reverberating against their skin. As new shadows crept from the corners, she wondered, could they really fight this battle again? Was what had happened just a fleeting moment of clarity, or merely the beginning? The tension hung thick, waiting for their next move. Samantha's heart hammered in her chest, the silence pressing down like a weight. Daniel, still wobbling on his feet, scanned the room, his face pale, the previous bravado shattered. What do we do now? He asked, his voice cracking. They stood amidst the jagged shards of glass, the faint flicker of the cabin lights casting strange shadows on the walls. It was as if the darkness was waiting, holding its breath, lurking just outside the edges of their perception. Clara, Samantha whispered, her breath trembling. She needed to summon the courage to call out to the remnants of her friend, even if the shadows threatened to crush her spirit. She fixed her gaze on the spot where Clara's light had flickered. I won't abandon you. We'll find a way to pull you back. Daniel shook his head urgently, trying to pull her back to reality. Samantha, this isn't a game. That thing is dangerous. The fear in his eyes was palpable, but Samantha couldn't turn away. Suddenly, the air shifted, cold and heavy, as if a storm was brewing inside the cabin. From the corner of her eye, she spotted movement, something slithering, remnants of shadow crawling up the walls. Look, she shouted, pointing. The shadows twisted into a coiling mass, growing denser as they drew closer. A low growl emanated from the depths of the darkness, vibrating through the very bones of the cabin. You cannot save her, it cried, the voice a twisted mockery, echoing with Clara's torment. Stop, Samantha yelled, a wave of defiance washing over her. That's not who you are. Clara, I'm here. The shadows halted for just a moment, a flicker of uncertainty danced in the void. Samantha's heart soared. Maybe, just maybe, she was getting through. Please, Clara, she pressed. Fight it. Remember us. Remember the good times we had. The laughter, the trips we took under the stars. You're stronger than this. A shudder rippled through the shadows, its form shivering as if it were caught in a windstorm. In that moment of fragility, a faint glow emerged from within the darkness. Samantha, it was a whisper, a thread of Clara's essence struggling to surface. Don't let it drown you, Daniel shouted, his voice rising with urgency. He tightened his grip on the weapon, ready to face whatever came next, but Samantha held her ground. Clara, you have to fight back, she cried, feeling tears prick at her eyes. We'll fight for you. I won't let this darkness take you. The shadows writhed, enraged by her words. They surged forward, tendrils striking out, pushing against her resolve. Samantha forced herself to breathe, focusing on Clara's spirit as that faint light shimmered defiantly against the onslaught. With a deafening roar, the dark mass lunged. Daniel stumbled, grappling to maintain his balance, as the room erupted in chaos. "Stay close to me," he yelled, attempting to shield her from the wrath. But Samantha was already positioning herself between Daniel and the creature, unwilling to let fear decide their fate. "Clara, please," she called into the swirling darkness. "Use my strength. Remember our friendships. Embrace the light we shared." Suddenly, the shadow lunged again, a giant mass poised to claw at them both, stretching menacingly in the absence of any light. "Together," Daniel shouted, still keeping his weapon raised, a weapon of desperation and hope. "We can do this together." "Clara," Samantha screamed, pushing against the darkness. She felt something inside her, a blossoming warmth. "We need you," the shadows hissed, faltering at the brilliance of their combined faith. But the battle was far from over. Just as Clarity teetered on the edge, the creature lashed out, enveloping the room in a deafening silence. Shadows surged, leaving her gasping in the darkness. And then, just as quickly, a piercing scream shattered the air, both chilling and heart-wrenching. Samantha felt her resolve waver. "Clara," she cried, fear washing back over her. Was this the final cry of a lost friend, or the beginning of something far worse? The shadows ebbed, but a cold breeze slithered through the room, thick with hesitation. What lay waiting in the dark? It wasn't over yet. The question hung heavily. What other horrors awaited them in the night? The scream echoed in the suffocating silence, its chilling resonance ricocheting off the cabin walls like 1,000 shattered memories. Samantha's heart raced, every pulse a reminder of the danger they faced. She clutched her chest, gasping for breath, her determination threatened by the darkness that closed in. "Clara, fight it!" she screamed again, her voice wavering but insistent. The faint glow flickered, battling against the overwhelming shadow. But all around them, tendrils of darkness writhed like snakes eager to squeeze the life from their prey. Daniel's grip on his weapon tightened, knuckles white as he scanned the room. "We have to go. This is beyond us," he shouted, shifting nervously. But even as he urged retreat, Samantha could sense a flicker of hope pulling her feet to the ground. The urge to run was strong, but how could she leave Clara behind? "Daniel, we can't." Samantha's voice cut through his panic, firm despite her fear. "She needs us." The struggle to hold back tears ignited a wildfire of adrenaline within her. She squeezed her eyes shut for a brief moment, steeling herself. "Clara, you're in there. Don't let it take you." As if in response, the shadows convulsed. Desperation surged through the darkness, a force teetering between agony and a primal hunger to consume. The air thickened with dread, pressing against Samantha's chest, squeezing the air from her lungs. A low, guttural laugh emerged from the shadow, mocking, cold. "You think you can save her? She is ours now. Lost forever. It's too late." "No." The thought caught in Samantha's throat like a shard of glass. It floated there, threatening to choke the resolve from her voice. If this was a nightmare, then she needed to wake up, but every part of her clung to the hope that she could rescue Clara. Her fingers itched with a need to reach out, to bridge the gap between them. "Clara, remember the day we laughed till we cried? You told that silly joke about the cat and the dog?" Samantha's words rushed out, a desperate lifeline thrown into the abyss. First, there was no response. Then, like a gentle wind stirring leaves, another flicker of light emerged from the shadows. Samantha, it was faint, almost drowned by the chaos, but it pierced through the darkness like a star piercing the night. Yes. Clara, that's it." Samantha's voice quivered, thrilled that her friend heard her, but the shadows roared in rage, lashing out violently. "Get back," Daniel yelled, pushing Samantha aside just as a thick tendril shot forward. He swung his weapon wildly, slashing through the air in a desperate attempt to break their connection with the shadows. The impact sent a tremor through the ground, and the cabin trembled. Shards of glass from the broken windows spiraled like deadly snowflakes, sending Samantha tumbling backwards. The world spun, her vision blurring, and as she fell, the brilliance of Clara's struggle seemed to dim along with the light. "Daniel!" she cried, panic fueling her voice as she scrambled to regain her footing. "Keep fighting. Samantha, don't give up," Daniel shouted, his voice strained, battling against the overwhelming darkness. Every ounce of fear he felt fed into Samantha's heart as she rose. She looked back at the center of the chaos, where shadows twisted and lashed out like a beast in pain. Clara's light flickered again, a heartbeat pulsing in the dark. "Help me!" Clara's voice pierced through the roar, but it was strained, damaged, a glimpse of hope embedded within desperation. "Don't let it take you," Samantha shouted, feeling a fire ignite within her. "You're stronger than this. We believe in you." But then a horrifying thought clawed at her, a chilling realization that Clara might not be alone in her battle. Without warning, the mass of darkness swelled, crashing down upon them like a tsunami of despair. It roared louder than ever, a cacophony blending Clara's cries with the shadows' menacing laughter. The air turned thick, the weight of both fear and grief pressing down mercilessly. And then it happened, a split second when everything shifted. The shadows parted, revealing the abyss, a deeper darkness that beckoned. In that moment, Samantha felt a profound chill settle in her bones, as though the very essence of hope was being drained from her soul. "Daniel, what is that?" she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "What lies beyond?" For a moment, the shadows hesitated, shifting back as if afraid of the unknown. But then, they surged, a violent wave rushing toward them. Daniel's eyes widened, and he stepped forward. "Whatever it is, we have to face it together." But as he steadied himself, a new figure emerged from the darkness, a wraith-like silhouette, hauntingly familiar, draped in the sorrow of those lost. "It's time, Samantha. Embrace the darkness or perish," it murmured, the voice echoing Clara's tone, yet twisted into something sinister. Samantha's heart raced. Was this truly Clara, or something much worse? The answer held the weight of fate. It all hinged on her next move, the crossroads before her pressing heavily, the shadows coiling tighter, awaiting the final decision. What would she choose? The light, or the engulfing night? Samantha stood frozen, caught in the grip of fear and confusion. The wraith's words echoed like a siren's call, promising escape or doom. Her mind raced. Each heartbeat was a thunderclap, drowning out everything but the struggle for Clara, who fought in the dark. "Clara," she called. "I'm here. Don't listen to it." Desperation clawed at her chest. The shadow loomed, growing larger, more formidable, feeding off their terror. She stepped forward, ignoring the whisper of dread that told her to flee. "You are not lost. Fight back." The wraith's appearance was both chilling and familiar. It mirrored Clara's outline but twisted the innocence into a grotesque version. "She cannot hear you, Samantha. She's already stepping into the abyss." The voice wrapped around her, a chilling caress that spoke of resignation and despair. Daniel aimed his weapon at the figure. "Stay back. We won't let you take her." His voice quivered with bravado, but even he couldn't hide the sweat trickling down his brow. But the wraith only laughed, a sound that blended with the chaos, pulling Samantha closer. It reached a long, skeletal finger toward her. "Join us. You know you want to. Your heart yearns for acceptance, for relief from this burden." Samantha's throat tightened. If she looked too long, would she be tempted to listen? Would the abyss open its arms to her as it had to Clara? "You're lying," she shouted, voice cracking, but guilt began to seep through her resolve, whispering insidiously that perhaps this darkness was easier than fighting. In that moment, another surge of light flickered from Clara, a shimmer pushing back against the encroaching dark. "Samantha, please." Clara's voice was thin but defiant, the sound invigorating Samantha's fading courage as if a fire had ignited within them. "Hold on, Clara. We're coming," Samantha roared. Summoning every ounce of strength, she reached out, letting the feelings of fear transform into a burning desire to save her friend. "We can't abandon you. We won't let you slip away." The air vibrated with Clara's light, sending shockwaves through the shadows. The wraith recoiled. "You will regret this, foolish girl," it screamed, and the shadows whipped violently, thrashing around them like wild animals ready to pounce. The cabin began to shake, walls creaking under the pressure, the very foundation trembling. Daniel glanced at Samantha, eyes wide with panic yet fierce resolve. "We need to act now." He rushed toward Clara, but a cluster of tendrils shot out, wrapping around his legs, dragging him back to the dark abyss. "Daniel!" Samantha pleaded, rushing to him. But the shadows lunged at her, two dark fingers swiping ferociously. She ducked, narrowly avoiding them, while rising in her throat at the near miss. "Keep fighting. Focus on Clara. We can break this," Daniel shouted through gritted teeth, straining against his bindings. With a fierce yank, he cut through the darkness with his weapon, making a small pathway. In that moment, Samantha saw it the glimmer of Clara's essence, faint but unwavering. Together, she screamed, their voices intertwining as Clara's light flared again, pushing back against the encroaching shadows. "We can't give up." As they pressed forward, the cabin shook once more, and a horrific howl erupted from the shadows, echoing in rage. "You think you can defeat us?" The wraith screeched, its form twisting and contorting in the light. "You will find nothing but despair." But as Samantha reached out toward Clara, she felt an electric surge connected to her friend, binding them together like threads in a tapestry. It tightened around her heart, pulling her in, filling her with the warmth of affection. Laughter pinned against the backdrop of terror. "Fight! Fight with me, Clara!" she shouted, heart pounding. She could feel Clara's presence rekindling. The memories of joy and hope ignited her spirit. Just then, a deafening crack resounded. The roof buckled above them, splintering like fragile glass. Instinctively, Samantha ducked, fear ripping through her as the shadows clawed at the rift. And through it light poured in, like the dawn breaking after an endless night. "Daniel, grab Clara," she shouted, eyes wide in realization. The dual forces of light and dark were colliding above them, demanding a choice, but which would claim them in the end? "Clara, reach for us," Daniel yelled, eyes blazing with urgency. But just as Clara began to move, the shadows lunged forward, seeking vengeance, desperate to crush their tiny rebellion, to snuff out the flickering hope. "What happens if we fail?" Samantha thought, dread creeping in again. They had to make their stand, and there was no turning back. Just as the darkness pressed in again, a blinding flash erupted, blurring Samantha's vision and filling the space with a searing brilliance. She shielded her eyes, fear pounding through her veins. What came after the light? The shadows snarled, and the wraith shrieked, unraveling into a cacophony of noise that seemed to join the very ghosts of lost souls trapped within. Samantha felt herself being pulled, not just toward Clara, but toward the very heart of the turmoil. "Clara, stay with me." But what if something awaited them on the other side that was far worse than any nightmare? What if the light offered no salvation and only another twist in their fate? The blinding light enveloped them, washing over her like a wave crashing upon the shore. It was impossible to breathe, impossible to think. The brightness consumed all thought, replacing fear with a sense of clarity. In the depths of that brilliance, Samantha felt a connection, an unmistakable tether reaching out toward Clara. "Clara," she shouted, fighting against the dizziness that spun around her. She couldn't lose her now. The tension in her body coiled tighter, a spring drawn back at its breaking point. She had to make this work. They had come too far, faced too many shadows to let this be the end. Suddenly, Clara's voice cut through the brightness like a beacon. "Samantha, I can feel you. Hold on. Hold on to me," Samantha cried, stretching her hands toward the shimmering pulse of light that represented her friend. And then, as if clasping hands across an endless divide, their energy collided, a rush of warmth, laughter, and memories, all smashing together in an explosion of light. The shadows recoiled, dark tendrils loosening their grip, their screams mixing with the joyous laughter that echoed from the other side of despair. In that moment, Samantha felt the shadows begin to dissipate, collapsing in upon themselves. "You will regret this," the wraith's voice shrieked, dissolving in a furious whirl of darkness swirling into nothingness. But Clara's essence surged forth, brilliant and pure. Suddenly, she stood before Samantha, a radiant light displacing the night, just as she had been. Laughing, vibrant, whole. Tears streamed down Samantha's cheeks. "Clara," she gasped, their eyes locking in an unspoken agreement. They were together now. "Let us end this," Clara shouted, her voice strong and unwavering. Samantha nodded, their hearts beating in perfect synchrony. Together, they turned toward the collapsing shadows, every remnant of darkness roiling in chaos. And with every ounce of strength they could muster, they unleashed a wave of pure light toward the tendrils, channeling laughter, love, and the shared memories that would never be severed. The shadows howled in rage, retreating faster and faster, dispersing into the night like mist evaporating under the sun. With one final roar, the shadows shattered, ripping through the air and dissolving into thin wisps, lost forever, nothing more than dark winds whispering through the trees as the last threads of darkness dissolved. The cabin shuddered one final time, crackling with energy and leaving them bathed in an ethereal glow. "We did it," Samantha exclaimed, laughter bubbling up from deep within, filling the cracks in her heart. But now they were left standing at the precipice, a fork laid before them. Clara glanced around, the woods no longer a looming threat but rather a path toward the unknown. "What happens now?" she asked, a slight tremor in her voice. Samantha took a deep breath, feeling the air fill her lungs with a sense of triumph. "We move forward, together." As they stepped from the cabin, the moon rose high above Cedar Hollow, illuminating the path ahead. The woods felt alive, yet calm. The air was fresh, the world breathing anew, free from the terror that had once gripped them. "Let us go home," Clara said, her tone suffused with warmth. Side by side, they journeyed forward, leaving the darkness far behind into a new dawn, where the shadows were nothing more than echoes of the past, reminding them both of their resilience. And as they walked away from the cabin, the vibrant colors of the world popped into view, the lilacs blooming, the sunset painting the sky in shades of gold. Each step forward felt reassuring. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, strong, both transformed by this haunting experience. Their laughter rang into the night, a melody lingering in the air above Cedar Hollow, the town holding its collective breath, finally free from the secrets that once choked it. As the sun kissed the horizon, they knew the stories of Cedar Hollow could finally begin to heal. Now, listen up. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss any future exclusive stories like this. 1. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this jaw-dropping ending. And don't forget to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of backing the channel through these awesome actions.